Hi team, I hope you're ready because it's time for biology with Miss Judd. We know that one of the characteristics of life is that all things must be able to reproduce by forming new individuals. So for an organism composed of just one cell, think like a bacteria, this could just be cell division itself. It can serve perfectly good in a form of reproduction. You don't have to meet someone else, conduct a courtship, or deal with rivals. All you have to do is divide, and bingo, there are two of you. Today, we're going to talk about that form of reproduction, which is asexual reproduction, and compare it to sexual reproduction, which requires two individuals. I think this is the perfect opportunity to send it to Ghost Miss Judd. Miss Judd to dive into lesson 4, reproduction. Now, remember your characteristics of life that all living things must be able to reproduce by forming new individuals. There are two types of reproduction in our natural world. The first one that we're going to talk about is asexual reproduction. This is the production of genetically identical offspring from a single parent. In this case, we have three different examples. There's budding, which a new organism develops as an outgrowth. So here we have a hydra, and you can see in number 1 a little baby outgrowth, number 2 it growing larger, number 3 growing larger, and then all of a sudden it pops off, and now we have two hydra. There is one parent. It does not combine any genetic information, so this offspring is identical and it budded and popped off. We then have fragmentation. This is a new organism developing from a removed piece of a parent. So here we have one starfish that gets cut, and each piece grows using cell division to add and build a body. So now I started with one starfish, pieces of it became two separate organisms. So I have reproduction, one organism becomes two, and they are identical. Lastly, I have fission. This is when a single cell organism divides into two identical daughter cells. So I have one cell, it replicates its DNA, splits, and then I have two cells. This is slightly different than cell division. There's less going on, especially because chromosomes don't really form, but it is a very similar process. There are advantages and disadvantages to asexual reproduction. Some advantages are that the population can increase very rapidly in good conditions. Only one parent is needed. There's no need to go searching for a mate. It's more energy efficient. It doesn't require as much energy to go through asexual reproduction, and it's faster than sexual reproduction. Now, the disadvantages are that there's no genetic variation. It is the same genetic information from parent to offspring. Species may be suited to only one habitat. Because there's no genetic variation, there's no new traits, which means that it can only live in the same area that the parent lives in. And then if there's a disease or a famine, it affects the entire individual since they are all the same. Here we have examples of bacteria. They go through that fission in which the cell splits. We have hydra that reproduces by budding. And then Kalanchoe, we didn't talk about this, but plants can reproduce asexually through vegetative propagation. We can compare asexual reproduction with sexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, there is a fusion of two reproductive cells formed by separate parents. Offspring produced by sexual reproduction inherit some of their genetic information from each parent. This is a really good thing in producing genetic variation. That means that the species can adapt to new environments because of that variation. A disease is less likely to affect all the individuals because the individuals are all different. The disadvantages here are that time and energy are needed to find a mate, and it's not possible for an isolated individual to reproduce. Now, our world is crazy and weird, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on, but there are organisms like the strawberry plant that reproduces asexually and sexually. The strawberries, which form from flowers, are the result of sexual reproduction. And the runners growing off the strawberry plant are the result of asexual reproduction. All right, I'm going to send it back to Miss Judd to wrap up these notes. Thank you, Ghost Miss Judd, for wrapping that up so well. Each type of reproduction has its own advantages and disadvantages in terms of survival strategies. For many single celled organisms, asexual reproduction provides clear advantages. When conditions are right, they can reproduce quickly, enabling them to compete successfully with other organisms. However, that lack of genetic diversity can become a disadvantage when conditions change in ways that don't fit the characteristics of an organism. That's why some organisms are able to reproduce both sexually and asexually. All you guys need to do now is do your practice and bring your notes into class. I hope you guys have a great day and make good choices.